Daniel slumped down on a chair in the police station morgue, his eyes glazed over as he stared at the lifeless body before him. His entire world seemed to have collapsed. Heather was now just a cold corpse lying on a metal table. Tears streamed down his anguished face, not only because of her passing, but also because of the deep guilt weighing on his heart. How could he not have recognized the signs before it was too late? The police officer standing beside him tried to reassure him, but no words could ease Daniel's pain. He walked closer to the body, his hands trembling as he touched Heather's arm, the cold feeling choking him. His eyes filled with tears, as if he was hoping for a miracle to wake her up, but the miracle never happened. Daniel knew that his life would never be the same again. Heather was gone forever, and he had to learn to live in a world without her. It seemed impossible. They had so many plans, so many dreams, but they were all cut short so suddenly and brutally. As he left the morgue, a burning question loomed in his mind. Who did this? Who was the cruel person who took Heather's life? While Daniel was drowning in grief, somewhere else, Sharon Newman was caught in a spiral of dark secrets. She stood in front of the mirror, staring at her own image. Everything was so confusing. Sharon had no idea that Heather's death would haunt her to this extent. She tried to cover up every trace, throwing Heather's body over the bridge and into the river, cleaning up the scene as if nothing had happened. But could she hide from the truth forever? Sharon's mind was torn by conflicting voices. Part of her wanted to believe that she had done the right thing, that Heather deserved to die for threatening her happiness. But on the other hand, the guilt was growing stronger. She was no longer sure of anything. Cameron, who had appeared as a voice in Sharon's head, forcing her to act this way, kept whispering in her ear, reminding her that there was no turning back. There's no turning back, Sharon. It's gone too far. Daniel will never know, and Heather, she deserved this. But Sharon couldn't stop thinking about what could happen if the truth came out. She had committed murder. And not just murder, but deliberate, calculated murder to cover it up. Now she had to live with this burden, not knowing if the truth would ever come out. Daniel couldn't forget Heather's face at the morgue. The pain and loss grew within him. The unanswered questions about Heather's death haunted him. Who killed her, and why? Daniel set out on a journey to find the truth. He talked to the police, to his and Heather's mutual friends, but no one could provide any clear clues. Everything seemed to be shrouded in mystery. However, one thing was clear to him. This was no accident. Someone had killed Heather and tried to cover it up perfectly. Daniel met Sharon by chance at a small social event. He had rarely paid much attention to her, but when they met, something about Daniel's doubts grew as he began to watch Sharon's actions. She seemed to no longer be herself. Sharon's behavior was unusual at times, and gradually the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. Sharon had been near the crime scene the day Heather disappeared, and she had been secretive about what had happened that night. Daniel knew something was wrong, and he decided to find out. He hired a private investigator to follow Sharon and those associated with her. Soon, he received a report that shocked him. The detective had found evidence that Sharon was involved in dumping Heather's body. A security camera had captured a woman who looked like Sharon standing on a bridge the night Heather disappeared. Daniel couldn't believe what he was reading. Could Sharon be behind Heather's death? His emotions were in turmoil. He felt betrayed. But what had driven Sharon to do this? And how had she been able to hide it for so long? Sharon will be arrested, and the truth will be brought to justice. But will that ease Daniel's pain? Heather is gone forever, and nothing can bring her back. Subscribe to YNR for updates. In the darkness of a mind being manipulated, Sharon is deeply involved in a game where she no longer even realizes whether she is a pawn or the mastermind. Cameron has successfully manipulated Sharon's mind, forcing her to obey his every command. However, when Cameron temporarily disappears from the game, Sharon begins to believe that she can control everything without his presence. A glimmer of freedom flashes within her, and Sharon decides to act on her own to complete Cameron's dark plan without any specific instructions. Sharon secretly takes the phone of Heather, whom she has secretly harmed. In order to lure Daniel into a trap, she decides to text from Heather's phone number, pretending that Heather has just found her phone and wants to return it to Daniel. In the text, Sharon cleverly suggests meeting to return the phone, knowing that Daniel and Lucy will immediately want to meet to receive this precious item. As she expected, Daniel answered without hesitation and agreed to meet to retrieve the phone. This created the perfect opportunity for Sharon to carry out the next part of her plan, infiltrating Daniel's penthouse while he and Lucy were away. Sharon quickly found a way to break into the apartment, taking each step with tension and suspense. She opened Daniel's closet and stealthily placed the bloody towel, evidence of the cover-up, along with Heather's phone. When everything was ready, Sharon took a deep breath, her hands shaking as she closed the closet door, a feeling of dread filling her heart. She had crossed a major step in her plan, but at the same time she knew that she had gone further down a path with no way out. Returning home in the dark, Sharon couldn't help but feel a little heavy in her heart, as if a shadow was still following her. Faith, her daughter, waited anxiously, and as soon as Sharon entered, she couldn't hide her relief at seeing her mother home safely. Faith had been worried about her mother being late, but Sharon immediately reassured her daughter, advising her not to worry and downplaying the matter. Sharon even warned Faith not to contact Lucy about Heather's death, which made Faith even more suspicious. For Sharon, keeping this secret was not only about protecting herself, but also about protecting her future. Faith had always been Sharon's only weakness, and she was willing to do anything to protect her daughter from the consequences of her actions. Just as Sharon began to feel a little relieved that her part of the plan had been completed, Cameron reappeared, this time in her mind with a cold, satisfied smile. "You did very well," Cameron said in a complimentary tone. He had seen Sharon's every move and couldn't help but admire the perfection of what she had done. But it wasn't over yet. "Now you have to call the police," Cameron suggested, his eyes sharp. "You have to make them believe it was Daniel, so no one suspects you." Sharon knew this was the most important step. Cameron had always been. GCPD investigator Chance receives new information about the case. Someone claims to have found Heather's phone and wants to return it, but they're 15 minutes late. This delay makes Chance feel like something is wrong, and he decides to take the case personally. Chance contacts Daniel and advises him to send another text message to speed up the return date. He even offers a reward to see what the other person does. Daniel, in a state of extreme stress, has no idea what's going on. Why did Heather suddenly disappear? And why was her phone mysteriously found by someone? Chance also confirms with Daniel that Heather's phone is password protected, which makes him even more suspicious. If the phone is locked, how could someone text Daniel from Heather's number? That's the big question, and perhaps the key to solving this case. As Sharon sat alone in her room, Cameron's words echoed in her head, like a haunting shadow. She had gone further in her plan, but she also realized that there was no turning back. With each step, Sharon was embroiled in this deadly game. The question was no longer whether she would be discovered, but when the truth would come flooding in, like an irresistible wave. Subscribe to YNR for the latest updates on our channel.